now that we know how to find the slope of a line given 2 points, let's build on that skill and now learn how to find the entire equation of a line simply by just being given 2 points, a line. So I don't really know why I gave some space here because we don't really necessarily need it. So let's just dive right into some examples. So for example, number 1, we're told that in the following examples, find the equation for the line that passes through the coordinates. So for example, number 1 here, we have the points 2, 4 and 5, 3. So when you're asked to find the equation of a line that passes through 2 coordinates, these are your steps. So your first step is to find the slope of the line, which we learned how to do that in the last video, where we say m equals the difference of our y values, because slope is rise over run, so we're going to find the difference of our y values. So we're going to do 3 minus 4, and then the difference of our x values, 5 minus 2. So 3 minus 4, that's -1. 5 minus 2 is 3. So that's your slope, -1/3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the slope, m equals -1/3, and set it up with slope-intercept form. So we're going to say y equals -1/3 x plus b. So our equation is incomplete. We need to figure out what b is. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to either plug in this point or this point. You can plug in either of the points, whatever one you'd like. And you can plug in 2 for x and 4 for y, because our points, recall, is x comma y. And I'm going to plug in the point 2, 4. And what will happen is b will be our only variable left, so that we can solve for b like you would be solving a linear equation. So recall 4 is our y value, so we're going to say 4 equals -1/3 times x, and x is 2. So we get -1/3 times 2 plus b. Now let's solve for b. Let's figure out what our y-intercept is. So -1/3 times 2, that just becomes -2/3 plus b. Now to get rid of this fraction, I'm just going to multiply this entire equation by 3. So we're going to get 12 equals this 3. When you distribute that in, these 3's would cancel, so you just get -2 plus 3b. And then here, to finish solving for b, we're going to get, I'm just going to actually just write this whole thing up here. Okay, so now to solve for b, let's add 2 on both sides. So we get 14 equals 3b. And then our last step to solve for b is divide by 3 on both sides, and we get b equals 14/3. So our final answer, our equation that runs through these 2 points, is going to be y equals -1/3 x, our original slope, and we're going to add our b value, which is 14/3. And that's your final answer. Looking at example number 2, we have the points 1, 5 and 1, -2. So I encourage you to actually pause the video and find the slope on your own. And assuming you have found the slope, let's go through it. So we're going to take -2 minus 5, the difference of our y values, and then we're going to divide the difference of our y values by the difference of our x values. So we're going to get 1 minus 1. Well, -2 minus 5, that's -7. 1 minus 1 is 0. So what happens now? Well, whenever you get a value, some value divided by 0, when we're talking about slope, this means something special. It means that our slope is undefined. Now, the slope is undefined because, think about it like this. Recall, right? Slope is rise over run. So when we have some rise value, but no run value, that means that we're rising forever with no run. So that means if you rise forever with no run, visually, what's going on is we have a vertical line. So, and remember, vertical lines are undefined. Our slope, that means our slope is undefined. So, let's write that rule here. So, when a slope has a rise, but no run, your slope is going to be undefined. For step number 2, we are given find the y-intercept by plugging in one of the given points. Let's see. We have y equals, our slope is undefined, times x plus b. Well, because we have an undefined slope, this just goes away, and we get y equals b. But the thing is because we have, because our slope is undefined, there is no y-intercept. And recall, slope-intercept form of a linear equation, the b value is our y-intercept. So this whole method goes away. So how are we actually going to find this? Well, in this very specific case, I gave this example because this is a very specific case, and because we have a vertical line, recall in section 3.2, we learned how to graph these kinds of equations that are vertical. Well, recall a vertical line means that we don't have any y-intercepts, but what we do have is an x-intercept. Oh, that looks like our y-axis. Let's say that this is our equation. Let's say that this is our vertical line here. So we know that we're going to have x equals some value as our equation. But how are we going to know what that value is? Well, we have to look at our points, what we're given. Notice, for both these points, our x value is 1, but our y value is 2 different values. So what this means is that our x value, we can assume that our x value, given that we have an undefined slope, and that tells us that we have a vertical line, that means our x value is 1, or always going to be 1. So our equation is x equals 1. Now, I will say this example, number 2, this is a very special case. And this only happens if you get an undefined slope or a slope of 0. But with that being said, for our last example, try this on your own. Graph the equation of the line that passes through the points 4, 5 and 8, 3 on the xy plane. Use the same exact steps as we did in step number 1. So first, you're going to find the slope. And then once you find the slope, you're going to say y equals whatever the slope is times x plus b. And then you're going to plug in either of these points, whatever one you'd like, to find the value of b, and then you just write the equation. So assuming you've done so, let's work through this. So let's first start by finding the slope. M equals the difference of our y values. So we're going to have 3 minus 5 over the difference of our x values. So 8 minus 4. And then we're going to say 3 minus 5, that's negative 2. And then 8 minus 4, well, that's 4. And then here we can reduce this fraction, or we can reduce our slope. Because we're given 2 over 4, we can divide both we can divide both the numerator and denominator by 2. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's our slope, negative 1/2. Now using that slope, we can set up our linear equation. So we have y equals negative 1/2 x plus b. Now, you could, when you did this on your own, you could have plugged in either of these points, and both are equally correct. But because this point 4, 5 are smaller values, I'm just going to plug in that point. So y is going to be 5, so we get 5 equals negative 1/2 x, which is 4, so negative 1/2 times 4 plus b. Well, this simplifies to 5 equals negative 4 divided by 2 plus b. 4 divided by 2 is 2, so we get 5 equals negative 2 plus b. To solve for b, I'm going to add 2 on both sides. So we get b equals 5 plus 2 is 7. So our linear equation is going to be y equals negative 1/2 x plus 7. That's your final answer.